purposes, because when we see a sample that has THCV or CBDV, we kind of want to have an idea of a guess of how much is there. But that's not official because we don't have an official standard yet. The DEA hasn't, I believe, started selling that one yet.
What about testing for impurities in the sample? Is there any, do the measurements that you produce, give any indication to inorganic or, not organic or
pesticide?
Unfortunately, well, as far as inorganic or organic, unfortunately, there's no real test to be able to show that because.
I retract that. That's stupid. I know. Never mind. That's more for the front end. I know where it's grown from. Never mind. Keep going.
But as far as like pesticides, we test for 6 different classes of pesticides. I know there are more out there, but we test for the most common ones, and we can give an idea in parts per million on that. Other impurities we scan for, we look for growing mold colonies underneath a microscope, a dissecting scope, and we spend about 15 minutes on each 1 gram sample dissecting it underneath the microscope to be able to see that. Now, of course, there are microscopic spores that are on everything, but we look for actual growing, even at the smallest amount, we can see a single cells forming hyphate clusters, under the microscope. So if there's anything physically growing, we can see it, but we don't actually classify that in like colony forming units because we're not plating it out and growing it out. Doing that takes about 10 days per sample, and most of our clients want their results back in 24 to 48 hours.
Now, speaking of that, obviously when you're working with a lot of different samples, little tiny bits of different types of medicines that people want you to test, transferring it from marked container to marked container, the measurement of all these various materials, and some of it's gloopy, some of it's different, to handle. There are going to be mistakes that are made occasionally, and I know that you had described to me the C16 standard thing that you use to help try to catch these things. Could you describe that to our listeners?
Yes, before we add solvent to dissolve the THC from the samples, we add a internal standard to our solvent. We use hexadecane, which is C16. All it is a substance that we put a known amount into our solvent. We get another peak that comes out in our report, and that peak we can compare from run to run to see if there was any human error between runs. When you're measuring out 1 microliter at a time, we use actually a giant loop, so we're looking at it under a big magnifying glass, this micro syringe, and we can make sure that we get it the plunger right in the middle of the line. But if you're off by a small fraction, when you're talking about a microliter, you can have error involved. So we make sure that we have this internal standard in our solvent, so if there's a different amount of solvent pumped into the machine each time, it will come back in our results. We know, hey, I messed up on that one. It's just one more way for us to catch ourselves, because we make sure we have redundancies for everything and checks and balances for everything, so that way we can maintain the consistency we're proud of.
25 seconds left. Answer this question. The consistency of the cannabis that you're testing, the cannabis that you're testing, do you find it to be consistent in some manner? And if so, what are they quickly, if you can?
What? I'm sorry. I don't quite understand the question.
You're testing cannabis from the caregivers from across the state in some capacity. Are you finding it to be consistently certain levels of THC?
Consistent cannabinoid profile.
Cannabinoid profile of some kind, right.
I would say 99% of the strains out there have a similar cannabinoid profile, which means all THC and almost hardly anything else. Only about 1 out of 150 strains that we've tested at the lab have shown, say, CBD-rich values, where we've seen CBD values in most strains being around 0.5%, but we've had them reach as high as 19.5% with the Cannatonic that won the Cannabis Cup there in Detroit for high CBD. So we do see almost everything showing a range of, say, 12 to 20% THC, 12% being average, and anything around 20 or higher being very elite. But the profile, most everything seems to be high THC. The plant's been selected for high THC levels for the last several thousand years by people, So almost all the cannabinoids other than that have been bred out. So luckily there's people out there now that are starting to select for these other cannabinoids, and with help of testing labs we can identify them and help get them into the hands of the patients that need them.
Excellent. Brent from Iron Labs, thanks for being with us. We only got 2 minutes left, Brent. I'm sorry to we have to stop. It's just such a fascinating topic, and I know the community loves to hear about it, and you're very, very informative, and I appreciate you giving us your time. We're going to have you back on again. Thank you very much for coming on, all right? Have a great night.
Anytime. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks
Take care.
for calling in.
All right, we have 2 minutes left. We're going to go around the room. Chad, you have less time because you asked that long question at the end. Go ahead. Just kidding.
I just wanted to thank Brent from Iron Labs for coming on, and looking forward to next week's show with Mike Cox and the week after with Rick Jones.
That's right. That's right. We didn't get to announce in the comeback. That's why that Rick James Jones was playing. Jamie, final thoughts.
Nope, just hope people come out to these upcoming events in the next couple of weeks and continue the support. We seem to be on a pretty good trend these days.
That's right, Mike McShane.
And every Saturday we're going to be in front of Just For Us, downtown Ferndale at 211 West 9 Mile Road, collecting signatures for the repeal campaign. So stop on by and see us.
Yes, Christiana, any final thoughts?
Come on down and see us. I'll be down.
Excellent. Thank you. And, of course, Rick Towson.
Participate in government. Participate in conversations. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. And make sure that you're knowledgeable and that you're always, always safe.
Your knowledge is power in these days, ladies and gentlemen. Know what's going on. You know, we used to think that the vote and following the law was going to provide us that, but we can see we've got challenges ahead of us, and knowing what's going on is going to be the key. I want to thank our guest, Brent from Iron Labs, my friend and fellow attorney Neil Rockhind, everyone in the studio. Thanks for being here, and everyone for listening. And we will see everybody next week. Everybody be safe.
Thank you, Michael.